You people don't have to take him up socially. He just wants to work and get ahead, that's all.
A young man by the name of Eastman.
Show him in, William.
A Place in the Sun, the 1951 classic from director George Stevens, is a morality play about an impoverished man whose ambition leads to his destruction. But what makes the film interesting is the inscrutable performance of Montgomery Clift. We're never quite sure how sincere he is, or even if he's capable of sincerity.
I knew then that I couldn't do it. I couldn't go through with it.
And then, you had a change of heart.
Depending on how you read the portrayal, the film's meaning shifts, so that it's equally unclear what lessons are to be derived.
I had no training, no education. Then I came here, went to work for my uncle. That's my background, Mr. Vicker. There's not very much there to recommend any approval. But I love Angela more than anything in the world. I'd do anything to make her happy. Even if it's right that I shouldn't see her anymore.
Is it a condemnation of naked ambition and a man whose unfeeling sociopathy ruins his life and the lives of those around him?
Lies. Isn't it a fact that every move you made was built on lies?
Is it an exploration of how the insulated wealthy protect themselves from infiltration by those they consider inferior, and an indictment of an oligarchical structure in America?
I didn't kill her.
In the end, is the character of George Eastman being led to his justified execution, or is he the victim of a system that demands an example be made?
Bye-bye. Bye.
Is his romance with Angela Vickers a tragic love story or a cruel farce?
Seems like we always spend the best part of our time just saying goodbye.
On the one hand, George Eastman appears to be industrious, doing his best not only to excel in his modest position, but to offer improvements to the process in hopes of promotion. This is presented in contrast to his idly rich relatives.
Will it be ready for summer?
Even if I have to stand over everyone with a whip.
All right, Seymour Vickery, let's go. Good night, Eastman.
Well, good night.
You may not know it, but I've been keeping an eye on you.
Well, that's very good of you, sir.
Getting along all right?
I know the work pretty well now, sir.
Yes, I suppose you do. Do you think you know it well enough to take on some responsibility?
Yes, sir.
Good. I'm going to move you up.
In fact, the senior Eastman appears not to be interested in George's actual performance, but keeps insisting nonetheless that he sees something exceptional in him that justifies advancement. Where George was raised impoverished, a performer in a family sidewalk evangelism group, they live lavishly on the proceeds of bikini sales. So we are set up as presumably conservative audience members to see George as virtuous and his family as wastrels and opportunists who've built an empire on lasciviousness where he went deprived as a reward for his piety. On the other hand, George is decidedly ambitious, and not in an entrepreneurial way. He's content to receive benefits simply due to his accidental connection with the wealthy Eastmans.
I'm awfully sorry, but our Mr. Eastman is at home today. He won't be coming in.
At the mere suggestion of an opportunity with his uncle's company, he immediately abandons his previous position and whatever connections he may have had. He comes to the Eastman Company on the presumption of obtaining a position, and perhaps more. No sooner does he start work than he breaks the company protocol by dating co-worker Alice Tripp.
I'll walk you to the door.
Oh, I can manage from here. I have my own private entry. Good night.
His pursuit is aggressive to the point of unseemliness. It's as though taking up with her is more than a romantic advance. He's staking a claim, as an Eastman, to have what he wishes and to find his pleasures where he may.
I'm sorry, hon. couldn't get away for 3 hours.
It's hard to say if he initially has real affection for Alice, or whether his uncertainty about his superior status is genuine, but it becomes clear that neither lasts for long.
He said, I got my eye on you. I think he really means it, too.
That's fine. But you could have phoned me.
Yeah, I know. I could have phoned.
George is quiet and reserved, but not unassuming. It's clear as he glimpses the world of privilege enjoyed by his relatives that he sees no reason he cannot be a part of it, and he doesn't hesitate to pursue Angela Vickers, once encouraged by her evident interest.
Wow. Hello.
I'm getting on pretty well here, Mama. I'm happy here, too.
Who's there with you, George?
It's me, Mama.
George maintains a grudging reverence for his mother, the religious fanatic. The fact that he offers her supposedly ailing health as an excuse to get away from the Eastmans reveals his unconscious acknowledgement that she remains at the center of his moral conscience.
That was a friend of my mother's. She's not well.
Oh, I hope it's not serious.
I don't know. I ought to get home.
His perhaps unhealthy devotion is noticed immediately by Angela, who is quick to offer herself as a surrogate, to supplant his mother as his most urgent priority.
Oh, Angela, if I could only tell you how much I love you. If I could only tell you all.
Tell Mama. Tell Mama.
She finds it disturbing when this doesn't appear to have entirely worked.
You will come back to me, won't you? As soon as you can.
As soon as I can.
You promise.
I promise.
I can't tell you.
What is it?
Oh, I'm so afraid.
Honey, what's the matter?
George, we're in trouble. Real trouble. I think.
When Alice becomes pregnant, the amusement of their fling comes to an end. Coupled with his infatuation with the beautiful but vacuous Angela, this leads George to resent Alice terribly. She's everything he had meant to leave behind. A sense of obligation to wholesome but unexciting living that must be shed.
I'm the one who counts.
You're the only one. Only one. Maybe then you put yourself in a swimsuit.
Well, not me.
Why? You don't look good in a swimsuit?
Sure I do. I can't swim.
You're kidding.
I never learned.
Meanwhile, nearer home, fine weather had its darker aspects, too. The State Highway Patrol reports that fatalities from traffic and other weekend accidents exceeded by 4 the high figure for the corresponding weekend last summer. Some 14 persons lost their lives. Among these, at least 5 were drowned.
And so he concocts a murder scheme. Lies and evasion are no longer adequate to keep the needy woman at bay, and so he must dispatch her. Notice that at no point during this does he seem to blame himself or to question the correctness of his adopting the high-flying lifestyle of his wealthy new connections.
Labor Day. It's a holiday.
Now, look, now.
Look, Al, it's not my fault. Besides, one day more is not going to make any difference. Say, there's a wonderful lake near here, Loom Lake. Just the kind of place you've always wanted to go for a honeymoon.
His desire to leave that life behind may seem laudable, or at least comprehensible, but it's hard to see greater value in the life he's pursuing, one of slovenly leisure and empty-headed frolicking.
Go! Hey, Akila, how about some cuddling? Yeah, come on, everybody.
How's all that?
Oh, this is a for you.
Oh, we'll fix that.
Oh, no, you can't.
Again, the film's message becomes mixed. We are at once invited to consider that the temptations of wealth and privilege can drive an otherwise innocent, simple man to heinous acts, and at the same time invited to despise him for valuing boating rides and picnic outings over the lives of his unborn child and its mother.
From the way he's been talking, if I go up there, he's going to give me a bonus. It might be a lot of money. I don't know, $200-300. We can sure use that.
All right. You go up there for a week. I'll wait here. Hey, you're gonna marry me tomorrow. I'll telephone the newspapers and tell them everything. And then I'll kill myself.
Don't talk.
You make me talk like that.
Looking at the two women, each of whom represents a possible future for George, it's easy enough to understand his impulses. Alice is a petulant nag, and Shelley Winters is genuinely irritating in the role, to her credit.
You lied to me, Judge, for the last time. And now I want you to come and get me.
It's not going to be too easy right now.
Now.
I'll do it tomorrow morning.
I said now!
She represents the frank, unvarnished, glamourless future that couples with the obligations of responsibility. Angela is a dream, a vision in her Edith Head dresses. Where Alice offered resistance, Angela is yielding. She's a fantasy girl, encouraging George to believe he can have a life of careless bliss.
You really mean that? You'd marry me?
Haven't I told you? I intend to.
But again, it's hard to tell whether the inaccessibility of Angela is a rebuke to the notion of upward mobility and a condemnation of a system that keeps the poor poor. Or if we're meant to blame George, who could so easily have attained her and all she represents if he hadn't broken the rules and violated social covenant.
Goodbye, George.
Is it the system that is corrupt, or the man? Are circumstances to blame, or does George have no one to blame but himself? He carries out his plan, but at the last moment, in a fit of conscience, he cannot follow through. Because his callousness has been exposed, however, Alice herself is driven to complete the act he set in motion. She's killed in what appears to be an accident, and he lives. But we don't witness the immediate events when they enter the water. We only see him crawling ashore, not waiting to see if she may follow. We later learn that she received blows to the head upon entering the water, which he claims were caused by the boat upending, but which we have no way to know he didn't inflict himself. What we do know is that he made no effort to save her, and that he attempted to flee responsibility afterward. Once apprehended by police, he becomes persona non grata for the jet set, including his previously welcoming relatives. There may be some hypocrisy in this, but it's important to note that they are more reasonably willing to withhold judgment than you might expect.
I'll engage the boy's lawyers, and if it appears he's innocent, I'll spend $100,000 to defend him.
It's not as though he's being punished merely for wanting what they have, nor for acting to obtain it. They may have stumbled into wealth without much merit, but they are not murderers, and there's no reason to think his actions were reasonable for just anyone faced with the prospect of a better life if he were to successfully discard his existing one. In the end, faced with execution, George insists on his innocence. The prison preacher suggests that to know whether he's truly guilty, he needs to ask himself of whom his thoughts were when he saw Alice go in the water.
If that sin is on your soul, my son, you must make your peace with God.
I don't believe I'm guilty of all this. But I don't know. wish I knew.
This rather limp condemnation offers the movie's ostensible position. He is, after all, to blame. But it seems like a verdict almost unwillingly offered, and there's no actual logic behind the argument.
I told her it wasn't true. I didn't want her to die.
Wasn't she alarmed or frightened?
She even said, poor George.
And so, viewers have been permitted, by virtue of an unclear message and Cliff's outstanding performance, to decide for themselves whether he is an unforgivable sociopath who is willing to kill in order to obtain the most superficial benefits, or whether he and Angela were great lovers, tragically parted by foolish acts prompted by the temptations of social climbing.
I like to believe it. Means you can't live without me.
As for me, here's what I have to say on the matter. George planned the murder of Alice Tripp. He acted to bring it about, and then she died. A moment of hesitation, even at the point of killing itself, doesn't excuse him. The fact is that her death was a direct consequence of his planning and actions. He was its cause, and so he is absolutely to blame. When I watch A Place in the Sun, I see the story of a weak individual, a man who rationalizes every impulse and desire, lying and manipulating others to obtain them. And I see a family, and a lover in Angela Vickers, too shallow and lost in their own privileged world to recognize a predator in their midst.
Hello, George. Oh, it's been centuries.
The maid said you're out playing tennis.
No, I was just watching them. I haven't even eaten anything since you've been away. Well, hardly anything.
I wish that you loved me again.
The victim is Alice Tripp. It is she, and not George, who had a reasonable expectation to be taken care of, and to have a life with George Eastman, such as he could provide.
After all, it's the little things in life that count. Sure, maybe we'll have to scrimp and save, but we'll have each other. I'm not afraid of being poor. What's the matter?
Just stop it.
Never has there been a story more aptly summarized by the aphorism, "You do the crime, you do the time." George Eastman is like a parasite. One cannot perhaps find him entirely to blame for his actions, but at the same time, one cannot escape a feeling of revulsion that such a creature can exist.
We can just drift. After all, we're not going anywhere.
A Place in the Sun reminds us that the morally upright may appear stuffy, or even to be an annoyance, but that no dream of advantage and fun, free of obligations, can override responsibility for one's actions. That someone like George Eastman has no place in the sun.
Hey, George, where you been? Got another woman stashed around someplace?
Thank you for watching. As always, please like, share, subscribe, and comment below.
You're the fellow that wondered why I invited you here tonight. I'll tell you why. Look. Are they watching us?